You're looking at your phone, thinking about what to call her. You type baby, then delete it. You type sweetheart, then delete it again. Something inside you feels that those words are too common, too predictable, too easy to ignore. And deep down, you know this moment matters more than it seems. Because the way you address a woman quietly shapes how she feels about you. Most men never think about this. They use the same nicknames everyone else uses. And then they wonder why the connection feels average. But attraction rarely grows from average. Attraction grows from emotional impact, from feeling seen, from feeling different in someone's eyes. Later in this video, I will explain the simple shift that makes a nickname feel personal instead of generic, and why one small change can make her think about you long after the conversation ends. I will also show you the hidden mistake men make when they try too hard to sound romantic, and how that mistake slowly reduces emotional tension instead of building it. Because tension, when it is natural, creates interest. Silence plays a bigger role in attraction than most people understand. Not just silence in conversation, but silence in effort, silence in over explaining, silence in constantly trying to impress. When you stop filling every moment with words, you create space for emotional curiosity. And curiosity is powerful. You may feel the urge to constantly message, constantly compliment, constantly show attention because you believe attention proves interest. But too much attention, given without balance, can quietly reduce the emotional weight of your words. When something is always available, it slowly loses intensity. That is why silence can feel uncomfortable, because silence removes the feeling of control. You are no longer trying to guide every reaction. You are no longer trying to guarantee a response. You allow the interaction to breathe, and breathing space creates anticipation. Calm mystery creates attraction. Many men fear silence because they assume silence creates distance, but controlled silence creates presence. It shows that your emotional state is not dependent on constant reassurance. It shows that your attention has value because it is given with intention, not urgency. Chasing often begins with good intentions. You want to show interest. You want to show appreciation. You want to show that you care. But when interest becomes excessive, it starts to feel like persuasion instead of connection. And persuasion rarely feels attractive. When you chase, you slowly communicate that the interaction matters more to you than to her. Not because it is true, but because your actions appear unbalanced. You reply instantly every time. You try to continue every conversation even when the energy feels low. You attempt to maintain emotional momentum, even when the moment naturally wants to pause. But attraction often grows during the pause. When you allow a moment to end naturally, you create space for reflection. Reflection creates emotional processing. Emotional processing creates curiosity. And curiosity creates investment. Calm mystery creates attraction. Think about the difference between someone who is always available and someone who values their time. One feels predictable, the other feels intriguing. One feels easy to replace, the other feels worth understanding. You are not trying to create confusion. You are creating emotional balance. Balance shows self respect. Nicknames work the same way. When a nickname sounds like something she has heard many times before, it feels replaceable. But when a nickname feels intentional, connected to her personality, connected to a moment, connected to something specific, it feels personal. Personal attention creates emotional warmth without needing constant repetition. This is why many common nicknames slowly lose impact, not because the words are wrong, but because they lack individuality. They lack emotional identity. They do not create curiosity. They create familiarity. And familiarity without emotional tension often feels flat. Later, I will explain how a simple, unexpected nickname can create a small emotional spark. Not because the word itself is magical, but because it communicates observation. Observation shows interest beyond appearance. It shows that you notice details, energy, personality. People feel valued when they feel understood. But understanding takes patience. It takes emotional control. It takes the ability to slow down instead of rushing to create closeness instantly. Chasing closeness too quickly often creates resistance, even when the other person cannot explain why. Because emotional comfort develops step by step, not all at once. When you give someone the chance to feel naturally curious about you, they begin to participate emotionally. They begin to invest attention voluntarily instead of responding out of politeness. Voluntary interest is always stronger than forced interaction. Calm mystery creates attraction. Silence becomes powerful when it comes from confidence, not fear. You are not silent because you don't know what to say. You are silent because you don't need to fill every moment with effort. Effort without awareness often creates pressure. Pressure reduces emotional openness, and emotional openness is necessary for attraction to grow naturally. When your communication feels relaxed, thoughtful, intentional, your presence feels more stable. Stability feels safe. Safety allows emotional curiosity to develop without tension. Many men try to create attraction by increasing quantity. More messages, more compliments, more nicknames, more attention. But attraction often grows through quality, meaningful words, thoughtful timing, controlled pacing. Later, you will understand how a simple shift in the way you address her can change the emotional tone of your interaction. How one small adjustment can transform a predictable conversation into something memorable, something that quietly stays in her thoughts. Because people rarely remember every word, but they always remember how something made them feel. And when a woman feels emotionally seen, emotionally respected, emotionally intrigued, her interest develops naturally, without pressure, without persuasion, without force. In the next part, you will begin to understand the psychology behind personal language, why certain words create connection while others feel forgettable, and how emotional restraint can quietly increase attraction without needing constant effort. Stepping back changes the emotional rhythm between you and her. It removes the pressure that often builds when you try to maintain constant contact. When communication becomes continuous without natural pauses, the interaction can begin to feel predictable. Predictability often lowers emotional intensity, but when you create small spaces between interactions, you allow anticipation to grow. Anticipation creates curiosity, and curiosity creates emotional movement. When you stop reaching out every time the urge appears, something interesting happens in her mind. The pattern she became used to suddenly shifts. She no longer feels your constant presence guiding every moment of conversation. Instead, she experiences a small sense of uncertainty. Not insecurity, but curiosity. Curiosity encourages attention. Attention encourages emotional investment. Calm mystery creates attraction. When your attention is not constantly offered, it becomes more noticeable. It becomes more valuable. People naturally appreciate what feels intentional rather than automatic. If every message arrives instantly, the emotional impact slowly decreases. But when communication happens with awareness and timing, it feels more meaningful. Stepping back does not mean disappearing. It means allowing space for interaction to develop at a natural pace. It means you are not trying to control every outcome. You allow moments to settle. You allow emotions to process. You allow her to feel the experience instead of being overwhelmed by constant input. When someone has time to think about you, they begin to form impressions on their own. They start to connect your presence with a certain feeling. That feeling becomes stronger when it is not forced. Emotional connection grows quietly when there is space for reflection. Calm mystery creates attraction. The urge to text or call can feel strong, especially when you are interested in someone. Your mind searches for reassurance. It looks for signals that the connection is still active, but reacting to every emotional impulse often weakens your sense of stability. Stability is created when you can feel the urge, but still choose your response with awareness. One practical approach is to slow down your reaction time intentionally. When you feel the urge to send a message immediately, pause. Take a breath. Allow yourself to observe the feeling without acting on it. Emotions move in waves. When you give yourself a little time, the intensity usually softens. Another method is to redirect your focus towards something productive the moment the urge appears. Movement helps reset your emotional state. Stand up, change your environment, focus on a task that requires attention. Even small actions can shift your mental pattern and reduce the pressure you feel. Clarity grows when your mind is not trapped in one single focus. Calm mystery creates attraction. Your daily life plays a major role in how you experience connection. When your schedule feels empty, your mind naturally fills the space with overthinking. But when your days contain meaningful activity, your emotional balance becomes stronger. You stop depending on one source of attention for validation. Focus on improving areas of your life that build long term confidence. Strengthen your physical routine so your energy feels stable. Develop skills that increase your sense of progress. Organize your environment so your mind feels clear. Spend time with people who respect your presence. Invest in experiences that create growth. Growth creates quiet confidence. When your confidence comes from consistent effort in your own life, you communicate differently. Your words feel calm, your attention feels intentional, your presence feels grounded. You are not seeking approval, you are sharing energy, and sharing energy feels more natural than asking for it. When you stop chasing constant interaction, you begin to notice the quality of the interaction more clearly. You become more aware of whether effort is mutual. Mutual effort creates balance. Balance creates emotional comfort. Emotional comfort creates trust. Calm mystery creates attraction. Stepping back also allows you to see how she responds when you are not guiding every moment. Does she reach out? Does she show curiosity? Does she invest attention? These signals become easier to recognize when you are not filling every silence with effort. Silence reveals intention without words. When your communication becomes less frequent but more meaningful, your words carry more emotional weight. A thoughtful message has more impact than many rushed ones. A well timed compliment feels more genuine than constant praise. Quality builds emotional depth. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is allow the interaction to unfold without interference. Not everything needs immediate response. Not every moment needs explanation. Some connections grow stronger when they are allowed to breathe naturally. When you create balance between presence and space, the interaction begins to feel more dynamic. There is room for curiosity, room for imagination, room for emotional connection to develop step by step. Calm mystery creates attraction. As your attention shifts toward your own growth, your energy changes. You become more patient, you become more observant, you become more selective with your time and words. Selective attention communicates value. Value increases attraction. In the next part, you will understand how this balance influences the way personal language works, especially when choosing words that create emotional warmth without sounding predictable, and how subtle changes in the way you express familiarity can transform how she feels when she hears from you. As you begin to create space and allow the interaction to breathe, the situation starts to show its true direction. Silence does something powerful. It removes the noise of constant effort and reveals the real level of interest. When you stop guiding every moment, you begin to see who naturally steps closer and who slowly steps away. This clarity protects your time, your energy, and your emotional balance. Sometimes when you stop reaching out, she comes back with more curiosity. Her messages feel more intentional. Her tone feels warmer. The interaction feels more balanced. This is where patience becomes important. When attention returns, you do not rush to overgive again. You maintain the calm rhythm you created. You allow the connection to rebuild naturally, without pressure. Calm mystery creates attraction. If she comes back, keep your standards steady. Do not suddenly become available every moment of the day. Do not abandon your priorities to maintain the interaction. Attraction grows when both people feel free, not when one person feels responsible for keeping everything alive. Keep your pace relaxed. Respond with interest, but never with urgency. Boundaries show self respect. They are not barriers. They are signals that your time has structure. When your time has structure, your attention has value. People naturally respect what feels balanced. Consistency matters more than intensity. Small, steady interactions build stronger emotional connection than sudden, overwhelming effort. Observe her effort as well. Notice whether she asks questions. Notice whether she shows curiosity about your life. Notice whether communication flows from both sides. Mutual effort creates emotional safety. Emotional safety allows attraction to deepen naturally. Calm mystery creates attraction, but sometimes silence leads to a different outcome. Sometimes, when you stop reaching out, the interaction fades, the messages stop, the connection becomes quiet. And this moment can feel uncomfortable, especially if you were hoping for something more. But silence still gives you something valuable. It gives you truth. Silence reveals truth either way. If someone does not return your energy, it does not reduce your value. It simply shows that the alignment was not strong enough to continue. And knowing this early saves you from investing deeper into something that cannot grow. Acceptance creates freedom. Freedom allows you to move forward without resentment. Closure does not always require a final conversation. Closure can come from understanding that genuine interest shows itself through effort. Effort does not need to be forced. Effort appears naturally when the connection feels meaningful to both people. Walking away with dignity strengthens your confidence. You prove to yourself that your self respect is not dependent on one outcome. You show yourself that your attention is valuable and cannot be negotiated through pressure. Calm mystery creates attraction. When you release the need to control the result, you allow better connections to appear. You create space for someone who appreciates your energy naturally, someone who responds with the same level of curiosity and effort, someone who does not need convincing. Because real connection feels balanced. Here is the simple truth. When you stop chasing, you stop lowering your emotional position. When you allow space, you allow natural interest to appear. When you communicate with intention instead of urgency, your words carry more meaning. Silence reveals truth either way. If she returns, keep your standards steady and let the connection develop step by step. If she does not return, accept the clarity and move forward with calm confidence. Both outcomes guide you toward emotional stability. Fast reminder: attraction grows through curiosity. Curiosity grows through space. Space appears when you stop over pursuing. Personal language becomes powerful when it feels intentional instead of common. Balance creates emotional comfort. Emotional comfort creates trust. Your action step is simple. From today, pause before sending messages that come from impatience. Ask yourself whether the message adds value or only seeks reassurance. Choose communication that reflects calm confidence instead of urgency. Calm mystery creates attraction. When your presence feels grounded, your words feel more meaningful. When your words feel meaningful, connection develops naturally. You are not trying to impress everyone. You are allowing the right person to recognize your energy without pressure. Your value does not increase through chasing. Your value becomes visible through self-respect. Move forward with patience. Move forward with clarity. Move forward with emotional strength that does not depend on constant validation. And when you are ready, watch the next video to understand how small changes in your communication style can quietly increase attraction without saying too much.